I'm good. How are you?
All good, yeah, all good. I'm good too. So nice to see you. Finally,
So glad to be sharing the screen with you, sir.
my pleasure, yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for joining in, Pratna. By the way, how are you? How is your residency going?
I'm good, sir. Residency managing.
Okay, okay. I think हर बार थोड़ा tough ही होता है साथ साथ residency और especially when you're a first year resident. So don't worry, you'll sail through. All of us have gone through this phase, and believe me, it is although physically tiring, but at the back of your mind, you know that okay, it's only 3 years, right? Unlike NEET PG prep, which seems like unending, and it seems कि भाई ये कभी खत्म नहीं होगी. Residency is not like that. So welcome to today's video, and I'm very happy that we have students joining in. They'll be asking few questions. I have some questions with me as well. I'll ask few questions and they'll also ask few questions. Now, just a
Sure.
quick reminder to everybody. You can unmute yourself towards the end of this session and ask questions directly to Pratna, right? I'll finish this interview in 10-15 minutes, won't take much of your time. We'll dedicate a lot of time to your questions because that is what is most important. So Pratna, let me just first ask you, when you started your PG preparation journey, when was that?
I believe a strong foundation is needed for the PG preparation. We should not just see it as a PG preparation. It's rather understanding the whole of the medical curriculum that we have. So it should start when you start reading from first year itself. If you can read standard books when you're in first and second year. If not, it's okay. There are many resources that are online that concises everything. I started my preparation for NEET PG dedicatedly from third year onwards by taking a major resource and watching the full videos. Since we had COVID during that time, I had the advantage of time to finish little bit of final prof in third year. And after that, in final year and third year, it becomes important to focus on clinics, because that clinical knowledge that we learn all along will help us in solving the questions that come in the exam, because the current pattern of exam that are coming is more towards the clinical STEM questions. Post that, during your internship or when you take a break, you should focus more on solving questions and giving GTs and reviewing them. Having this as a foundation, when you keep solving questions, and that is the time when you have to stick to RR and concise your notes and stick to those concise notes and make a plan for the last 10 days of the exam. That should be revisable.
Yeah, I think that quite sums up the entire MBBS preparation for NEET PG, I think. So whenever a first year student enters MBBS, that is how he should approach this NEET PG, if at all. But a lot of students, don't really study well in MBBS for many reasons. Profs are there, MBBS curriculum is hectic in some places, internship is hectic in some places. But then they definitely clear exams after internship. We have seen a lot of students who do that, in fact, get flying colors, even if they weren't in the top 10 or top 15 of their batch, right? So let me ask you regarding your internship and post-internship preparation. Third year, you mentioned that you should be good with your basics, attend your postings, finish your modules of your coaching, solve question banks. But let's say there is some student who is in his internship and post-internship. Now his MBBS is finished. He now wants to prepare seriously for NEET PG and give this a serious attempt. So first of all, what content he should focus on, be it particular subjects or be it main videos versus revision videos. Number one is content. Number two is questions. Which questions he should solve, how many questions he should solve, and number three is grand test. So we'll go step by step. Let's start with content.
So content, I would say it's important to first start with knowing what resources to follow for a particular subject. I had favorite teachers from each subject and I followed those subjects. And I am somebody who also goes into this FOMO that, oh, I have not studied from this one. It could contain more information. But the best thing to do is write down each subject and write down what all content you will be following for it, and then paste it on the wall and make sure you follow only that. Do you want me to tell you the resources I followed with respect to content?
I mean, not necessarily names of coachings, but if you want, you can do that. That's not an issue. I think this platform is uh, pretty neutral in that aspect, and we don't really focus on a particular coaching. If you want to name that, that's fine. Yeah.
I think that's still fine. It could be a personal favorite for everybody whom they are comfortable following. So after having the content in your hand, you have to go and solve previous year questions. And previous year questions uh, gives you an idea of what are the important topics. When you solve those things with that important topics in mind, you can add on to that content, maybe from the resources that you have done or from the YouTube videos or subject specialists,
Right.
and broaden your horizon from previous year questions.
Okay, so let's say for pathology, I've pinpointed that, okay, I'll read pathology from Dr. Ranjit. Let's say for gynae, you've pinpointed that, for example, you'll read gynae from Dr. Vaishika, radiology from Dr. Rishabh, right? So in these particular subjects, and if I take medicine, surgery, pathology, pharma, these are the important subjects. What to focus more on, revision notes or main notes?
For major subjects, I call it the big four: medicine, surgery, OBG, and pathology. So these subjects, you have to strengthen your basics. How far you go doesn't matter. That always adds to the glamour. So do your do the major resources for it. You can watch the main videos and understand the subject in depth, and then you have to move forward. And for short subjects like dermat, anesthesia, psychiatry, the short revision notes is enough,
Right.
even for ENT or style for that matter.
So what did you use? Main notes or revision notes?
For subjects like for first prof, in first prof anatomy, biochemistry, and second prof patho, micro, pharma, and even FMT. FMT is a very high yield subject. Even though if it has a less content, it is very high yield. Doing the main notes helps for FMT. And in third prof, PSM plus minus, because sometimes questions from PSM could be the ones that you can solve without having read the subject in depth, or it could be some questions that even if you have read so much, it could be from out of the box. So PSM is again plus minus. And then final year subjects, I would say medicine is one subject that you should keep in the end, especially when it comes to following a major resource. Pathology, pharma, and micro and physio. The parts like graphs and formulae, that covers for most of medicine. All you have to do in medicine is the ones related to emergencies, and solve more questions in medicine. Do test and discussions, that will strengthen medicine. Surgery, OBG, main notes is a must. Even last 10 days before the exam, you will have to revise main notes if possible, especially for surgery and OBG, because that forms the major chunk of the questions that come in the exam. Pediatrics, ortho, revision notes is sufficient. And skin, anesthesia, psychiatry, radiology are like easier subjects. You can add them along with the major subjects that you are doing. So it counts that 4 subjects are like one big subject. So that counts to the number of the 19 subjects. You will be able to finish them earlier, and then you can have you will feel that you have done more subjects.
Yeah, right. I think I agree with you. So, for example, if you're reading surgery, main notes, because in surgery, I think hepatobiliary, trauma, breast, general surgery, hernia, uh, uh, peripheral artery disease, varicose veins, burns, plastics, these are important topics. So, let's say you are reading surgery main notes for these topics. It's a good idea to add revision notes of anesthesia, revision notes of ortho, revision notes of radiology simultaneously into the surgery schedule, so that number one, you save time, And number two, it helps in better understanding of the subject, right? So you can club similar looking subjects. You're very right. Similarly, if you're reading medicine, as you rightly said, you should read medicine towards the end. But let's say you're reading path pharma, it's a good idea to club treatment of hypertension along with pharma. So treatment of heart failure, algorithm of heart failure along with pharma. So likewise, very rightly said. And that leaves only emergencies and maybe ECG, acid base, electrolytes, which are core medicine. Rest of all you can cover while reading path pharma in an integrated manner, right? Now let's come to QBank. So this is a very major issue now because PYQs, many students say, are overrated because exact PYQs never come. And like if you say focus on PYTs than PYQs, then everything is a PYT. PYT is a very, very broad term. And students do want to solve some questions when they are reading theory, or let's say they're preparing for a test and discussion. So how to effectively solve a QBank? Which QBank to solve? Main QBank, any short version of QBank? How to effectively solve a QBank?
I would say if you have a brief understanding about a subject, you can start before watching revision videos or reading revision notes. First start with solving the previous year questions. You don't know what kind of questions there are in the previous year questions. So when you go with an open mind and solve and apply what you have understood, that will make you highlight. That will help you in highlighting what are important in the notes if you have to go back and read. That could be one method. Or if you do revision notes, revision videos, and then solve, it's better to first prioritize and in solving previous year questions, because I've seen many students, they previous year questions itself is overrated, but it's not something you can miss out on. So you have to do previous year questions thoroughly and review them. After that, you can, based on the important topics and the schema that comes along with those topics, you can base specific topics, you can solve the modules of that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty correct to say that you follow pearls or schemas and related modules you solve. Don't need to solve all the complete QBank.
Or whichever you feel you are weak in. Those weak areas, like certain clinical questions, especially in hepatobiliary again surgery, I used to get them wrong repeatedly. So those, when you solve more questions, you will be able to understand how to approach a clinical question in that. Even medicine questions for that matter. So solving test and discussions helps. It need not be a previous year question. It will give you an overall understanding about the subject.
Okay. Now let's come to the third aspect, that is grant tests. So how to approach a grant test? How many grant tests did you give? What should be the ideal frequency and the way to review them?
I have given approximately 20 grant tests because of the postponements in the long time. It is first thing is to start early. Even though if you have not finished complete revision, don't wait for it. Start giving a baseline GT, and don't ever go with the mindset that, oh, this is the score that I got in the previous grant test. Just go with an open mind. Think that there are 200 questions in front of you, and you have studied something all through these 5 years. You have passed your final exam, like professional exam. So go with an open mind. So whatever question that has come, from whatever I know, I will answer it with an open mind. Read the question thoroughly and read the options and rule them out and proceed like that. I believe the mindset with which we give GT is more important. There are few tips that I have in me that I would like to share. First thing is, when you're sitting to give a GT, there are like hundreds of thoughts that will run in your mind. Will I be able to do this well? And GT or an exam, what if the questions that come in the exam are not from the topics that I have not studied? Just tell yourself, I can. That gives you so much strength. Just keep telling yourself, I can, till that thought goes away. And once you start solving the paper, don't rush, like especially for the pattern of exam that it has become with 4 or 5 sections in INI and NEET, we have this time constraint which was not there previously. I mean, more than the previous version. But even then, the first 5 questions, how you solve, actually sets the inertia for the whole test. So read that with the cursor, read the question properly. If it's a long question, read the last line of the question, and then read the options, 4 options correctly. And then read the skim through the questions and look at the key indicators. Then if you do that for 200 questions, if you've given your best in reading the questions, in applying what you have known, then you have given a good GT. It's not the rank, it's not the number of corrects. Yes, that is very important for you to gauge your performance, but this is what makes you focus on what you can do. Don't compare your ranks or your scores with anybody else. Like, focus on what you can do and keep improvising on that. And frequency of GTs, I would say at least once in 10 days is important. You have to give, and after giving GT, review it preferably on the same day, because you would have known what kind of thought process went in your mind while choosing an option. We would have chosen an option and changed it to another. When we go back and review those GTs after like a week or 5 days, we would not know why I did this mistake. So that will help us differentiating between silly mistakes versus understanding errors. And reviewing GT, I would say first start from the questions that you have gotten wrong, and then the ones that you have skipped, and go lastly go skim through the questions that you have gotten correct. Also, it's important to mark the questions you're guessing in the exam, so that you are aware of the questions you have guessed.
Yeah.
Coming to reviewing those things in detail, is I would like to say that you have to categorize these mistakes into silly mistakes. Silly mistakes are the ones that you knew the question, you knew the topic very well, but you didn't read the question well. You missed a knot. You missed all of the above, none of the above, such things. Or you didn't read an option because you were hurrying, or you didn't pay attention to something. So those are the silly mistakes. And understanding errors are the ones that maybe when you have read, you might have thought, I know about this, but you don't know in detail about it. So understanding errors are something that you have to understand and learn then and there. Go back to your revision notes, whatever resource you have done, or at least, if that is not possible, at least read the explanation that is given below the question. Next is recall errors. Recall errors are the things that are for the volatile topics. So make a list. It's preferable to make a notes having all the volatile information, like numbers or classifications, or you can at least like mark in the notes that you're reading, like put a hashtag so that you know what are the volatile stuff, and you can keep coming back to that again and again. That will really help you in the last 1 week before the exam. 3 days before the exam, these are the volatile things that how much ever times you read, you are going to forget. Like 𝐒𝐻 classification and WHO classification of hydatitis that came in the exam. Unless you revise it like 4 or 5 days, or at least like 2 days, even sometimes on the day of exam, you wouldn't otherwise answer those things. And next comes the new information. New information you should give the least priority to, but you think such kind of question, it's important and it might come, then it's just make a note of it and forget about it. And INI also likes to ask about the recently approved FDA drugs, especially of this current year. So going through that once can help you get a extra edge, that one extra correct answer in the exam. After that comes after segregating these mistakes into these 4 columns. When your ranks are like stuck, you can also add another column of changed answers. So these are the answers where you thought about a right answer and then you changed it. Usually what happens with me and with my friends I have seen is we end up changing from correct to wrong than otherwise mostly. So always for factual questions, stick with your instinct. And for for questions with clinical STEM especially, make sure you change it only after knowing that if there was something, some pointer you missed in the question. So those changed questions is again like you will know what thought process went in when changing that question into this. So that will also help you in knowing the topic better.
Right. So I think, thank you, Pratna. I think that was a pretty good detailed discussion of what to do and how to review a grand test. And as I say, ki NEET PG or INICET preparation is like a puzzle. So when you're preparing for this exam, you feel very lost, but somehow all the information somehow fits in on the exam day to help you sail through this exam and get a good rank. So don't worry. It is a very bad phase in your life. I totally understand. And it will be one of the worst phases in your life. Never in your life will you feel so low about yourself, so low self-esteem about yourself, and you'll doubt everything that you are doing. But it's okay. Okay? It's only 3-4 months more, then you have your whole life to yourself. ठीक है, आगे भी टेंशन आएंगी, अलग तरह की टेंशन होंगी, एटलीस्ट एक टेंशन को खत्म करते हैं. ठीक है, so with that we end my interview of yours, and let's open the house for discussion. So any of you, if you have any doubt, please unmute yourself and ask. Hi, anybody has any doubt? Okay, I'll ask one question. I think just give me a minute. Yeah. So one of the students had messaged me to ask you, Dr. Pratna, is BTR plus bonus BTR enough for surgery to get at least 80% correct questions in INI as well as NEET PG? She has been watching Pritesh sir's video before, but she's not able to solve questions. Till now, she hasn't watched BTR surgery, but she's so hyped about it because everybody's talking about it, and so she's wondering whether she should watch it, and will it be okay to rely on it completely for surgery? Same for opthal, ENT, PSM, where to study these subjects.
It is not the resource, it's basically how you utilize it that becomes more important. So for surgery, it's a major subject, and BTR plus bonus BTR alone is not enough. You will have to supplement it with tests and discussions and a question bank at least. And if you have done Pritesh sir's notes, if you have revised it well, it's wise to revise that. And then if you are still not able to solve the questions, I would say rather watch test and discussion video than changing the resource. But BTR, since it's a concise version, you have to watching that will help, but it's not enough.
It's not enough. Yeah, got your point. So it needs to be supplemented either by the revision of Dr. Pritesh Singh's notes, if she's reading that, or the test and discussion, which we are conducting. And in my opinion, test and discussion is a very good product, which, it is not so popularized nowadays. Everybody is after revision videos, but test and discussion, gives you that extra information that you थिंक कि आपको मेन नोट्स पढ़ने पड़ेंगे. सो मेन नोट्स पढ़ने भी नहीं पड़ेंगे आपको, आपका काम हो जाएगा रिवीजन नोट्स या बीटीआर से प्लस टेस्ट एंड डिस्कशन से. सो इट्स सॉर्ट ऑफ लाइक अ चीट कोड.
And test and discussion is something that teaches you how to solve the question, how to approach the exam with the content you have. And I see BTR as like you read a major notes and then you make notes out of it. BTR is something like that. So if you just read that note, you wouldn't understand much. You should have a knowledge, a base before doing BTR or after doing BTR. But especially for major subjects, it's required.
Okay, thanks, Pratna. Now another question she asked only that a lot of times when she is giving questions, she is confused between two options. She is able to eliminate two options and she is left with two options. Now in those two options, she always somehow marks the wrong answer. So how to tackle that?
That's a very tricky question. So I believe when we are stuck with two options, so there is one option that obviously feels very evident, and there's another option that we think, oh, why this is not the answer. We try fitting that, we try bending that answer and try to fit that as the answer. But when we are thinking so much, that means we are more likely to mark the wrong answer. So go like first is, for example, if there's an image like an X-ray or something, first make the diagnosis and then see the options. Then you will come to the answer better.
Okay, thank you, Pratna. I think it was pretty hard to answer that question. Thank you, kudos for you to answer that. Yeah,
I hope it helped.
if anybody has any other question, please unmute yourself, because there is no live chat option on Telegram, and so please unmute yourself and ask if you guys have any questions.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Yeah, so ma'am, I wanted to know that what are we supposed to revise in the last 10 days? What did you revise in your last 10 days before your INICET or NEET?
So I had added previous year questions, explanation parts of it which I was missing into my BTR notes. And for major subjects like OBG, surgery, and PSM, anatomy as well, anatomy, FMT. So these are like the high yield subjects, which if you don't revise, it will be hard for you to mark the answer with confidence. And even pharma was not my very strong subject. So those are the subjects. First categorize those subjects which you are weak in and which are major, and it's better to just go through the important topics during the last 10 days. Keep that in the first half of the last 10 days, and in the later half, the pearls that you have bookmarked, which are previous year questions related, going through that, and the hashtags of the volatile stuff that you would have marked. For example, sutures could be volatile, and that's important. And PSM, there are certain formulas, graphs, classifications. Those are the things that you have to revise during the last 10 days.
Right.
Okay, ma'am. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, sir.
Hello. Hi. Good evening.
Yes, sir, my question is that how to tackle micro and pharma, which are very volatile. Means it is like however times I read it, I used to forget it. So how to tackle this so that we can remember it on the day of exam?
So micro, you can make mnemonics firstly, and micro, you categorize them into like the subspecialties like bacteriology, virology, parasitology, and there is a classification that comes. So have a brief overview of the differences between these organisms. That will help. Parasitology, there's CDC. CDC is one PDF that is available on Telegram. You can just go through that. That will give you an idea in the last 10 days as well, in the idea about how each life cycle would be, because that's a very commonly asked question. Mnemonics for microbiology is a must. And for pharmacology, the more number of times you revise, that will be helpful. You can, for subjects like these, micro and pharma, you can keep like 1 hour a day, every day, and you go back and revise those subjects with spaced repetition. So when you keep doing that, when you keep seeing that thing again and again, you can recollect it.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening, sir.
Hello. Hi, bro. क्या हाल है?
चले सर मुझे एक्चुअली मेरे एक इंटर्न फ्रेंड ने पूछा था क्वेश्चन बोलने के लिए, शर्मा रही है, नहीं बात करनी, तो शी आस्क्ड कि मेरा जस्ट अभी इंटर्नशिप कंप्लीट हुआ है and somebody who has not been very diligent on the study wise, for these 100 days what will be the plan of action and कौन से रिसोर्स को करते हुए how can we utilize these 100 days की चलो अच्छा रैंक आ जाए, उस सेंस में सर पूछना चाहता हूँ मैम से.
तो चलो I'll answer this first and maybe Pratna I'll go to you. तो देखो I was in a similar situation in internship attempt. ठीक है, so मेरी internship hectic थी, थोड़ी मैं पढ़ाई नहीं, but my November INICET, that was my first attempt and I had 2 months left for it. वो है 2 चॉइसेस, या तो सब छोड़ो आराम से चिल मारते हैं, इंटर्नशिप के बाद पढ़ेंगे। सेकंड चॉइस आई हैड कि थोड़ा पढ़ लेते हैं, मे बी अगली बार निकल जाए, है ना। तो दैट शुड बी द मेंटालिटी कि मुझे अभी पढ़ना है ताकि अगला अटेम्प्ट फाइनल अटेम्प्ट हो। अगर मैं इंटर्नशिप के और डिले कर दूंगी तो फिर 1 साल बाद निकलेगा। तो 100 डेज में क्या करना है, आप 8 सब्जेक्ट चूज करो, सबसे टॉप पे उसमें ऑब्स गाइनी, ठीक है, ऑब्स गाइनी, सर्जरी, फार्मा, पैथ, माइक्रो, बायोकेम, अनैट, फॉरेंसिक, ठीक है। 100 डेज में 8 सब्जेक्ट्स हैं आपके पास। अगर आप 10 डेज भी लगा रहे हो हर सब्जेक्ट को, कम ही लगेंगे उससे, है ना, तो भी आपके 8 सब्जेक्ट्स कंप्लीट हो जाएंगे। इन 8 सब्जेक्ट से आपके 120 क्वेश्चंस आने, ठीक है। इन 8 सब्जेक्ट्स में आप डिसाइड करो कि ऑब्स गाइनी, फार्मा, पैथ और बायोकेमिस्ट्री मुझे अच्छे से पढ़ने हैं। तो इनके आप मेन नोट्स उठा लो, या फिर पहले 3 साल के PYQs करो इनके, एक साइड बुक नोटबुक में लिखो कि ये टॉपिक्स बार बार पूछे जा रहे हैं, इनको मैं मेन नोट से पढ़ लेता हूँ, साथ में रिविजन नोट्स एनोटेट कर लो। और लास्ट 10 डेज में या 10-15 डेज में बस इन 8 सब्जेक्ट्स को पढ़ के चले जाओ, खत्म। 100 डेज में इतना ही हो पाएगा, ठीक है। इससे होगा क्या, आपको ये तो कॉन्फिडेंस आ जाएगा कि भाई मेरे मेजर सब्जेक्ट्स खत्म हो गए, नवंबर का जो INICET एग्जाम है उसमें पक्का क्लियर हो जाएगा। दिस इज माय ओपिनियन। Pratna, you would like to add something?
That's very beautifully explained, sir. Just along with that, solve previous year questions of all the other subjects and just read the important topics from that RR notes or the main notes. If not, at least read the explanation that comes below. Along with that, you can solve pearls. Pearls are something that will give you pearls or volatile topics like classification and stuff. So just going through that, you don't have to spend a lot of time to understand those things. So those volatile things also you'll be able to answer in the exam. And last, whatever you do for 1 year or 6 months before the exam, whatever you revise in the last 10 days becomes more important. So these 8 subjects, if you're revising now, whatever you're revising, do it thoroughly, because you don't have time for second revision. Think like that, you don't have a time for another revision. Revise them, like read them thoroughly, and make sure you have a 10 to 15 days period where you can go back and revise them again. I was also in a similar situation when I gave my first attempt, and I had like 2 months time, and I had just briefly watched revision RR videos. Internship was hectic in college, and I had almost given up on preparing. It was in December that I thought, okay, there's a May INI, let's give it an attempt and see. So I started with solving previous year questions, and then whatever important topics were there from those previous year questions, I went back and read from RR or main notes, especially for the major subjects, OBG and OBG, surgery, patho, pharma, anatomy, biochemistry, and FMT. There's no escape. You have to read main notes. And FMT is a high yield subject. Don't ignore it. FMT and biochem. And give GTs.
Yeah, leave GTs.
Develop that mindset.
Yeah. Don't give GTs now.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. सर एक चीज पूछना था, जब हम MCQ सॉल्व करते हैं एग्जाम में, शुड वी बी लाइक कि भैया ये फर्स्ट ऑप्शन है, हमने पहली बार देखा है, इसको मार्क करो, करेक्ट, आगे बढ़ो, या फिर डाउट है तो मार्क विथ रिव्यू करके आगे बढ़े? क्योंकि कई बार हमको टाइम नहीं मिलता है ना सर वापस आने का। और INICET और नीट में डिफरेंट है, INICEट में नहीं लेता है, नीट में लेता है सर मार्क विथ रिव्यू वाला। तो मार्क विथ रिव्यू करे या फिर छोड़ दे, मतलब मार्क करके आगे बढ़े?
मैं तो कभी नहीं करता था, जिसमें मैं श्योर था, कभी मार्क विथ रिव्यू नहीं करता था। इनफैक्ट होता क्या था कि मैं कभी कभी इतने मार्क ऑफ रिव्यू कर देता था जीटीज में कि मुझे लाइक टाइमर से 10 मिनट्स पहले सबको अनमार्क करना होता था विदाउट इवन लुकिंग एट द क्वेश्चन। सो आई मीन दैट वाज लाइक टाइम वेस्ट ओनली। इससे पहले मार्क ही ना करते हैं ना, क्योंकि आप जितने ज्यादा मार्क करोगे ना रिव्यू में, आपको टाइम ही नहीं मिलेगा रिव्यू करने का। इट्स लाइक रीडिंग द क्वेश्चन अगेन। एवरी रिव्यू विल टेक 2 minutes, right? So mark with review is a very specific option for a very confusing subject Number one, yeah, for that question which is lengthy and taking a lot of time, you want to say कि चलो बाद में पढ़ेंगे यार इसको. Okay, one of the student is very shy to.
सर आपको ऑडियो ऑफ है.
You're not audible.
Okay, sorry. I think it's fine now. So one of the student is very shy to unmute, so she has texted me that medicine is very vast to start and finish within these 2 months. She has never touched medicine now, by the way. Only prof-related studies she has done in medicine, and 2 months are left only. Will it be enough to do integrated medicine videos and PYQs, test and discussion, and mainly focus on repeated topics? Pratna.
Yes, that is enough. When you're doing, along with previous year questions, tests and discussions for medicine, first start with doing pharmac, patho, physiology, related parts in physiology, and micro. When you've done these subjects very well, because like these 4 subjects add to the major chunk of medicine. And then focus on test and discussions and questions only that. Even after so when I had time to prepare for medicine, it's not something that you would prioritize. It should always be something that you would do it in the end, because these subjects cover up for the questions that are asked from medicine.
Right. So I think that is a good strategy. Cover them in an integrated manner, do PYQs and test and discussion. Yeah.
You can do it system wise as well. That system ka physiology you read, and then pathology, pharmacology, and related medicine, medical, clinical stuff.
Yeah. So is there any question? If there are no more questions, then we'll call it a day. We'll keep another session. I think since now exams are coming near, I want to. Yeah. Sorry. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm a post intern. Last year I read whole I prepared for the exam, but actually I'm stuck in GT with 80 corrects only, and I have recalling issues. So what strategy should I use to get more corrects in GT?
So it is important to review the GT when you have gotten 80 corrects. That means 120 questions were wrong. Before giving the next GT, review them. Why you are getting those? Why those 120 questions were wrong? Like I said before, many of them could be silly mistakes and understanding errors and recall errors. You said recall errors. You're having an issue with recalling stuff. That will only come with repeated revision and spaced revision. So if you're reading a subject a particular day, after 2 days or 3 days, read the stuff that you read. Even if you're not able to actively read it or actively recall it, just go through the pages. That'll your mind will be more familiarized with what content is there in what page at least. So with spaced repetition, those recall errors could be avoided. And whatever volatile things you have to categorize the volatile things first, and every day morning, whichever time you have high focus, revise those for 2 hours. Keep 2 hours every day and revise those volatile stuff. And review the GTs properly. You will know why those 120 questions were wrong. It need not, all of them need not be recall errors. They could be understanding errors and silly mistakes. When you can cut down on that, if the same question is asked from those 120 questions, in the next GT, you will be able to answer them. So that is how the number of corrects will improvise over time. And forget that you have gotten 80 corrects, and don't think that okay, next GT also I might get somewhere close to that. Just leave it with an open mind. Forget about your previous results. Just tell yourself, I'm going to give my best. I have studied well. I'm going to give my best. That's it.
Ma'am, do we need to attend 200 questions in GT? 200.
So it firstly depends on the kind of exam, difficulty level of the exam. It is good to at least attempt more than 190 to 195 questions. In the questions where you're able to rule out 2 options at least, it's better to mark. In the question that you're clueless about, it's better to leave those questions. So see it like that rather than having to attempt all 200 questions. So since it's all like now there are sections in the exam, at least in a 40 question set, at least you should try to get at least you should try to solve at least 35 to 37 questions. हेलो या
यस मैम मेरा क्वेश्चन है कि जैसे कि आपने बोला कि ऑप्स गायनी सर्जरी के लिए पूरी मैन नोट्स पढ़ना जरूरी है ऐसा, तो आई एम ऑल्सो पोस्ट इंटर्न, सो आई हैव रेड दोज, मतलब फुल मैंने नोट्स मैंने 1 साल पहले पढ़ा था ऐसा। तो अभी है ना, मैं मैरो से मेरा वो सोर्स है ऑप्स गायनी और सर्जरी का सपोज, तो वो जो उनके रिविजन्स है ना, रिवीजन वीडियोस, उसमें भी उन्होंने लेंदी थोड़ा कवर किया है, बट वो क्या कि एक जगह उन्होंने पूरा फ्लोर चार्ट और ऐसे बना के दिया है, तो वो थोड़ा इजी रहता है। तो वो एग्जाम के लिए वो प्रीफर करना सही रहेगा, वो रिवीजन नोट्स फॉर सर्जरी एंड ऑप्स गायनी की मेन नोट्स पढ़ूं मैं, क्योंकि ऑनेस्टली स्पीकिंग इफ आई विल रीड मेन नोट्स देन इट विल एटलीस्ट टेक 10 days for me to complete one subject, because this surgery of gynae, these are lengthy subjects. So how will it be to, means if I read these revision notes plus test and discussion, then will it be okay for the exam, or should I give time for reading main notes?
Honestly, most of the things will be covered in revision videos. Along with revision videos, if you complement it with test and discussions, that is enough for the time that we have now. But do them well, do them thoroughly. Whatever resource you are doing, do that thoroughly. You don't have to go back to doing the main notes. Hi, mom.
Hi. Carry on.
Sorry guys, I have a class at 9. I'll have to leave. Oishika is here. She'll moderate this session. Please, if you have any questions, please free to answer. Please free to ask Pratna or Oishika. The session is still live.
Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, एक last doubt था. How will you bounce back from a bad set? Because 4-5 set होंगे ना, तो sometimes it happens like we face a very tough set, and then how do you how will you bounce back from a bad set?
Yeah, it is disheartening when you have put in so much effort and your results are not up to the mark. First, take a break, go for a walk, do something that that makes you smile, like watch a movie or go for an ice cream, spend time with your family, and know that life is not just about solving or cracking an exam. Life is much beyond that. And then think about why you started in the first place. Why this is very important to you. Why do you have to get into the dream branch that you're aiming for? That will give you a motivation why you have to start again. And tell yourself that it's okay to make mistakes. It's only when you fall you will rise, and you will definitely do well again. And it's okay, this GT was bad, that's fine, but my main exam will be good. I will give the best exam of my life on the day of exam. That should be your motto. And it's natural to have negative thoughts, but the only way we can replace those negative thoughts is by creating positive ones. So tell yourself, affirm every day, affirm before going to sleep, when you wake up in the morning, when you feel you're overburdened with negative thoughts. Tell yourself, the paper that is going to come in the exam is going to be set for me. All the questions are the ones I know, and I will do the exam well. Whatever be your level of preparation, don't think about it. Just say, okay, 200 questions. It's only 200 questions. No, maybe those 200 questions are the ones you know. So think like that and manifest it, and it will happen.
That's very, very nicely put. Self-affirmation is very important, especially at a time like this. You tend to have so many, doubts on yourself. You look at everybody around you and you feel like you're the only person lagging behind. Does anybody else have any questions?
हाँ
Ma'am,
मैम
I had
पहले आप कर लो
okay. Ma'am, I had one more doubt. I'm an intern right now. My internship ends around April 15th, 16th. So, like the posting that I'm starting from Monday onwards, that's a hectic posting. So, what should I target during my hectic posting? It's a long posting, 6 week surgery posting. So, like, what all should I cover and how should I approach the hectic posting?
So your main aim is this attempt itself? You're focusing on this attempt seriously?
Yes,
Or
ma'am. I've been
you're not
preparing.
going to take a break?
Ma'am, I've been preparing throughout my internship. I want to give this as a serious attempt. If this doesn't work out, then I'll probably take a drop. But I want to give this one seriously because I've been preparing.
Then it's wise to take a break because it's close to the exam. Since from Monday it's starting, right? 6 weeks. And that's your
Yes,
last
ma'am.
posting, I believe. 6
Yes,
weeks.
ma'am. Yeah.
You can take a break of 6 weeks and do your internship post exam if you're okay with it. But you will have less time before the counseling starts. That you will have to compromise on. But in a hectic posting like this, it will be hard, especially when last 2 months before the exam, when you have to give your 100%, you will be tired coming back from work. And I believe you will be having night duties as well, 36-hour shifts. So along with that, you will be drained mentally and physically through the postings. If you've been preparing well, I would recommend you to take an extension of internship and finish it later, if that is possible.
Okay, ma'am.
Otherwise, keep revising whatever you have done and solve previous year questions. At least make it a point to give GTs once in 10 days at least.
All right, ma'am.
Dr. Sukhapuri also had a question.
हाँ मैम एक क्वेश्चन ये था कि जैसे कि जब हम एग्जाम देते हैं लाइक इन प्रॉपर मॉक एग्जाम और लाइक इन नीट और आईनेसेट एग्जाम वी हैव एग्जाम डिवाइडेड इनटू सेक्शंस सेक्शन 1 2 3 4 5 राइट मैम तो मैम अगर हमारा बिकॉज इट इज रैंडमाइज सेक्शन किसी को इजी मिलता है किसी को डिफिकल्ट मिलता है सो इफ बाई चांस आई डोंट वांट इट बट अगर किसी को डिफिकल्ट सेट मिलता है स्टार्टिंग में बिकॉज इट विल ब्रेक योर मोमेंटम राइट सो हाउ विल यू कोप अप फ्रॉम द ब्रेकिंग ऑफ मोमेंटम एंड बाउंस बैक इन द अदर सेट क्योंकि मैम एक बड़ा फोमो आने लगता है कि इफ यू हैव अ डिफिकल्ट सेट एंड यू विल लाइक मेरा पहले सेट में मेरे 10 क्वेश्चन छूट गए that means I'm already out of the race. You will mentally lose the game. So like, how do you cope up?
First and the most important thing is don't judge the exam when you're giving the exam. Keep that judgment after the exam. Let's see about it later. Whatever question comes easy, difficult, moderate, don't categorize it when you're solving it. And each section also, don't categorize it as, oh, this is, yeah, you will get a feeling, oh, I didn't do this set very well. It's okay. Take a deep breath, pause, and see the next set as a new one. And again, start it with a new mindset. I know it is easier said than done when there are especially lengthy questions and questions that are challenging for you to, choose between the two options. It is mentally draining, but all you can do is between two sets, take a deep breath, relax for like at least 10 seconds before starting the set with a fresh slate. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
So Dr. Sukhapuri, personally, this is something that I, struggle with a lot. I had to just jump in with this because I struggle with this a lot. I tend to feel very demoralized. And typically what happens is when I'm attempting questions, 5-6 questions in a row I'll not be able to attempt. Yeah, there'll be overhead transmission. And then the 7th question, even if I know it, I'm already so bogged down by that point, I'll not be able to think straight and get it right. So I am one of those kids who faces that, not kids, but yeah. So what I typically tend to do is, पहले जैसे OMR sheets पे भरना होता था, तो it was easy to miss questions या फिर 19 का 20 में mark कर दिया and make silly mistakes of that sort. Right now, with the advent of online thing, and you have that bar on the side which tells you what are the questions that you've attempted, what are the ones that you've left, what are marked for review, things are slightly easier. So what I do these days is that whenever I'm attempting a paper, if I feel like there are 2-3 questions in a row that I'm not able to attempt, I start from the middle or I start from the end, because that tends to, sort of boost my momentum, because not all questions will be like that. There will be questions that you will be able to get, that you will be able to attempt. So once I get those questions, yes, I'm in a flow, I'm able to attempt those, then I either keep on attempting backward only, or I start from the front again. So that is one thing that you could try. It is difficult to leave questions with the sidebar that comes in online exams right now. So I don't think that should be a problem.
मैम उसका एप्लीकेशन सॉफ्टवेयर इतना घटिया है मैम, एग्जाम वाला इतना घटिया है मैम. मैम मीन्स मेरा डब्बा फोन नोकिया वर्क्स बेटर देन दैट प्लेटफॉर्म. यू कैन ओनली गो फॉरवर्ड, यू कांट गो बैक.
Yeah, so basically वो एक बार बना होता है ना, so it's like 1 to 5, 6 to 10, 11. तो what I'll do is कि last में जो 46 to 50 है, I'll start with that. Then I'll go to like 41 to 45. I'll do that क्योंकि maybe question number 6 to 11 are very bad. The entire paper won't be bad, right? Like it'll just be 4 or 5 questions, and वो 4 or 5 questions, if I get them in a row, then probably 13, 14, 15 also I'll not be able to think straight. So I just take a different approach and पीछे से start करना कि कुछ तो क्वेश्चन सॉल्व हो तो थोड़ा मोरल बूस्ट होता है.
मैम आपसे ट्राई करेंगे मैम.
Don't try anything that you're not comfortable with in the exam. If you feel like the software sucks and you might miss on questions, then don't do it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Dr.
ma'am.
Natasha.
Ma'am, my doubt is now exams are getting nearby. Do we need to do QBank or shall I shift to custom modules? That would be better. Or TND is the best to follow.
Prioritize TNDs and previous year questions. This is not the time for you to go and solve the question bank modules. That will take a lot of time, and for the amount of questions you will be solving, the important ones would be few. So prioritize on the high yielding content which is given in test and discussions and previous year questions.
मैम एक डाउट ये भी था मुझे, लाइक PYQs अप टिल 17, 18 ऑनवर्ड्स इज नाइस, अच्छे लगते करने में. What happened to AIMS मैम? वो 17 के पहले के क्वेश्चंस I can't find it in book, I can't find it anywhere. They're asking some facts out of random 2014 से ऊपर. So like should we panic for that या फिर like पढ़ के आगे बढ़ो?
No need to panic for that. So usually the repeats are from 2 to 3 weeks. The recent 2 to 3 years questions. So do them thoroughly, and those topics are very important. And sometimes those memory-based questions will be asked from old previous years. So there's a Reflex app, right? So that has the previous questions from 2014 to 2013 to 2017. So you can just go through them and note down the important points from those questions. If you don't have time, that's okay. Important ones are from 2017 to 2024. Don't go into the FOMO of missing out on that. You solving the important stuff now. Focus on the high yield stuff. That is the recent questions, and it's not like INI asks only previous questions from INI. INI asks direct questions from NEET. Like even in the recent INI, there were direct questions along with the option from NEET PG. So solve both NEET PG, INI, and even FMG 1 to 2 years would help.
Thank you, ma'am.
That's actually a very good pointer because the FMG exam is actually becoming tougher by the day, and there are direct picks from I don't know who is picking from whom. Either INI is picking from FMG or vice versa, but there is a lot of overlap. So I keep telling all my FMG students also कि make sure उस session का INI तो आप कर ही लो. Attempt that paper. Yeah. Anybody else? Any other question?
मैम यूपीएससी सीएमएस के भी क्वेश्चन रिपीट हो रहे हैं मैम बार बार, इसलिए पूछ रहा था. एफएमजी एंड यूपीएससी सीएमएस दे आल्सो गेटिंग रिपीटेड.
Yeah. Anybody else?
मैम मेरा क्वेश्चन
Yeah.
था. हेलो
Yeah.
मैम मेरा क्वेश्चन था, मतलब पता नहीं पूछना चाहिए या नहीं, बट ऐसे डेज होते हैं कि है ना बहुत मतलब पढ़ के थक जाते हैं या फिर ओवरबर्डन होते हैं, और इवन एक बीच में एक दिन का ब्रेक भी ले लिया, देन ऑल्सो समटाइम्स हैपन कि हम लोग डेज में 2-3 आवर्स ऐसे ही वेस्ट हो रहे हैं, या फिर सिर्फ बुक्स लेके बैठे और इफेक्टिवली यूज नहीं कर रहे हैं, और मतलब अपने आप ही वो टाइम भी वेस्ट हो जा रहा है. तो हाउ टू मतलब प्रिवेंट दिस? देन इफ आई start scrolling, then that is also not helping, it is also taking my time. 2 घंटे कहाँ निकल जाएंगे पता नहीं चलता है. तो ये सब जगह पे कैसे मतलब अपने आप को पढ़ने के लिए रिचार्ज रखे, even after taking break, if I am not able to study, then
After taking a break, firstly taking breaks is important, and when you take break, don't think about what you have to do the next day. Forget everything, forget that you have to give the exam, and take a break wholeheartedly and make yourself happy. After that, when you're starting the next day, ask 2 questions. The question that you are very curious, a subject or a topic that you're very curious about learning, and the others that other that you think it's very important, and that you feel like learning. You will have an interest towards a subject. You wake up one day, maybe you would have planned a different subject for the next day, but then when you wake up, you feel like studying something. So go with that instinct. So that might help.
yes ma'am, you told this right. Means हम लोग एक प्रॉपर ऐसे स्ट्रेटेजी बना लेंगे, 1 महीने 2 महीने का सपोज बनाया, बट व्हेन इट कम्स टू स्टडीइंग अ सब्जेक्ट वी फील लाइक नो, आई वांट टू स्टडी दिस सब्जेक्ट, और मींस सम अनदर सब्जेक्ट. So even then also we will think that this is in my routine, so I should study this, but so that's the problem that happens.
Yeah, don't think like that. Yeah, we will have a plan is a basic structure, so that we have a timeline before and deadline before things should be done. But if you are not in the mood to study something, just if you sit through it, maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, even a day, you will not be able to finish it. And even if you finish it, you will not be focused to finish it. So when you like something, when you are curious about learning something, when you read that, even the less time you put in, you will be able to capture the information that is there better. So yeah, timeline is there, but we're all humans, right? We have feelings. So whatever you feel like doing, do that whenever you're not able to.
ओके मैम. और मैम एक लास्ट क्वेश्चन था कि आपने माइक्रो बायोकेम मतलब इन सब्जेक्ट्स के लिए फर्स्ट एड यूज की थी?
Yeah, I had used first aid for micro and biochem because it gives us an overall picture about the subject by the flow charts and the cycles in biochem, and flow charts in micro. You have a understanding as a whole, holistic understanding of the subject. So it's, if you're doing BTR or first aid, there's not much difference in that. Stick to one resource. It's not like everybody is telling about first aid, you will have to do first aid. Stick to one resource that compiles and compiles the subject.
ओके मैम, जैसे कि मैंने बीटीआर तो यूज नहीं किया है, सो आई विल प्रीफर फर्स्ट एड. सो लास्ट डे पे
go
कैसे
ahead.
रिवीजन करें? मींस नोट्स एंड फर्स्ट एड, और हाउ टू मतलब मैनेज ऑन द लास्ट डे ऑफ रिवीजन?
There should be certain things in notes that you should revise, and certain things from first aid you will have to revise. So mark them. And for the things that are just dispersed here and there in notes and first aid, like write them down in a sheet and stick them on the wall.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Anybody else? Any other question?
हाँ मैम आप अपना ओबीजी क्लास कब ले रहे हो मैम अगला मैम?
ले लेंगे आप बताओ. I'll schedule it soon. पक्का पक्का. ठीक है. I'll talk to the scheduler of classes, which will be Rishabh, I think. So I'll fit one of my classes in. Yeah. ठीक है. Okay, so I had one question for Dr. Pratna, which is ki, in your honest opinion, when you took the GTs, did you find them to be easier, more difficult, or at par with the final exam day questions?
So there were certain GTs which were easier than the actual exam, and some which were tough.
Yeah.
But they mostly represent the actual exam.
Mhm.
You should, and if you have, what happens with certain platforms is, if you have done the question bank of that platform very well, most of the GTs questions would be formulated based on that. So you will have a false bias of getting a more score in GT. So don't go by that. If you have not done QBank, I would say that's a extra edge. You know how to solve these questions when they are new. Because the question, so we would know the topics, but in the actual exam, the question would be twisted. So go with an open mind. You will get there, you will get the answer. The topics would be similar, but the question, you will feel like you're reading it for the first time. This looks alien to me. And along with the exam tension that is there, but while solving the questions, you will get there.
Exactly. So just remember this, GTs are a good representation of what is going to come in the exam with respect to the PYTs or the topics that are being asked. But your GT scores, like Dr. Pratna very rightly said, is not the most accurate representation of not how you're doing, I would say, but how the final exam day score is going to be. It is no way a representation of that. So I just want to tell you that if you are not doing very well in your GTs, then don't worry. It's not like you're going to bomb in the exam. That is number one. And if you're doing extremely well in the GTs, do not let that get to your head either, because the exam day is a totally different ball game. You are in a different mind space. There's a little bit of luck also involved. As Dr. Sukapuri said, कि कौन सा set आपको पहले मिलता है, आपका morale कैसा रहता है, all of that. And of course, these people are aware that there are a lot of coaching platforms that are, putting out all the PYQs. So they do try to twist the questions around a bit and not make it as simple as it may be in the GTs. So does anybody else have any other question?
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
मैम मेरा क्वेश्चन था कि हमें सारे PYQs जैसे मैक्सिमम प्लेटफॉर्म में 2017 के बाद के PYQs हैं, तो डू वी हैव टू सॉल्व ऑल ऑफ देम एंड मतलब रिपीटेडली उनको देखना है, या मतलब कोई स्पेसिफिक टाइम ही है कि इतने ही करने हैं, इतने ही सालों के करने हैं?
So ideally, it's better to start from 2024, the most recent ones, and then go backwards. Do the previous 3 years thoroughly, and then if you have time, go backwards and solve more questions.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Ma'am, non-relevant question. What do you prefer, classic 3 Littman or cardiac 4 Littman?
Can you repeat that question?
One non-relevant question. What do you like more, classic 3 or cardiac 4 Littman?
I like the classic one.
So that question is absolutely not relevant unless you're planning on gifting Dr. Prathna one of the two. Okay. So anybody else? Any other questions? Okay. Okay, thank you, Dr. Pratna. Thank you. And it was so great having you here, because usually the people, who have gotten a rank, when we talk to them, they're very strategy oriented. You were so sweet and, take your time, take a break. We are human, we have feelings. And that is exactly true. We don't really, we don't dive into that a lot, the emotional part of it, how to pick ourselves up after a bad set. But Dr. Pratna has been very, very kind, and she's given us good insights on how to also take care of your mental health when you feel like नहीं हो पा रहा है और बस books लेके बैठे हैं सामने, as Dr. Sapna said. So it was great having you here.
I'm so thankful for you and Rishabh sir for giving me this opportunity, ma'am. And interacting with so many students has really made my day. I hope this has helped you, and I hope you all perform very well in the exam. Just give your best. That is important. All the very best.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Pratna.
ma'am.
I'm pretty sure that all of them gained a lot from you, how to go about their strategy and all of that, and also how to, reset. That is very, very important. It's a very long year, the prep year. It's a long year. It's a tiring year, especially for people like Dr. Aksa who are also doing an internship along with it. It can become very, very daunting. So thank you for coming. The pleasure was all ours. And we hope to see you again soon.
Pleasure's mine as well, ma'am.
Okay.
I was on cloud 9 when Rishabh sir asked me about this interview. You guys have been role models for me through my med school journey about how to go about reading a certain subject or how to plan the last 10 days before the exam. I still remember when I gave my INI, I watched Rishabh sir's last 10-day strategy video and I tried to follow almost exactly that.
Yeah, Rishabh will be very happy to know that. He swears by his last 10-day strategy. Yeah, so always nice to have, people, and it'll make him very happy to know that you followed it and, you have done so well. I mean, obviously that's not the only thing, but I think he'll try to take the credit. Okay. Okay, chalo. We'll see you again.
So grateful. Bye, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Bye.
Bye.
All the best, guys.